Hi everyone, this is Hal and welcome to Travel Know-How. Obviously I'm not traveling out and about today, it's another special edition. Today I am going to show you how to make apple scrap vinegar. Now there's a lot of people who are stuck indoors with nothing better to do, and I thought, hey, I might as well figure out what to do with all these scraps since I'm baking a lot of apple cakes and making a lot of apple desserts, and throwing away peels is something that doesn't seem right when you can actually make something else out of it. And besides, it's also something that I learned along the way when traveling. A lot of local people in Europe traditionally have used their apple scraps to make free vinegar. So vinegar making is a two-step process. Now, first step is fermenting the scraps into alcohol. Now, a lot of sites are going to tell you you're going to need to stir the scraps daily. This I have found you can do. It's laborious, whether it's necessary or not to create the first fermentation, which creates the alcohol, is a debatable topic. But I'm testing it in various ways to see which one works the best with the most least effort and work, and I will let you know how things progress. So nothing too hard here. I've got a empty 1 litre jar and I've boiled up some tap water. I've already sterilized this jar prior to doing this. I'm just going to fill it up about halfway or a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to let that water sit in that jar for at least a good hour and allow for all that chlorine in the water to dissipate. Alright, so it's been about an hour now and the water's quite lukewarm. I will now add in about 2 tablespoons of sugar. So that's about 1 tablespoon of sugar per 1 cup of water. And that is 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm going by eye. It doesn't really matter too much because there's quite a lot of sweetness in the apple already to help get the alcohol fermentation going with the apple peel. Now I'm just going to use a nice clean plastic spoon to stir that in. Just help dissolve the sugar. It's quite a watery sugar solution there. Alright, now I've got a container of apple peels that I've been keeping for storage. Every time I sort of eat an apple, it's peeled, and the peels and cores are kept here, and I put it in the freezer. So anyone who's too worried about whether the water gets too hot and kills the yeast that is naturally occurring on the apple peel doesn't need to worry, because the cold temperature will balance out. Now I'm just going to throw the apple peel and cores in. Now what I've also been doing is throwing out the apple seed. So anyone who is worried about the cyanide being leached out from the seed doesn't really need to worry too much in the vinegar production phase. That is it, and push down. Right, now you see there's quite a bit of an air gap up there, but that's fine because I don't want the bubbles to sort of overflow. Now I have also the little baby jar which I'll put on top, and that will keep all the apple skin and peels all submerged. And as you can see, once the jar goes in, the water goes all the way up, almost to the neck of the bottle. So that's fine. Now I will set that aside, and in 2 to 3 days, because it's quite warm here, the apple peels will start bubbling away. This is one of my experimental jars. It's used just purely apple puree that has allowed to sit and ferment, and I haven't stirred it at all. And over the course of the first few days, it did erupt violently over the jar, and I left it on a dish to collect, and I did feed it back in and stirred it all up again. And now it's been almost a good 2 weeks, and all the bubbles have stopped bubbling away, and it's still floating up the top. I might give it another few more days, and when it's all settled, I'll strain that out. Okay folks, so what we have here is my apple puree, and I've strained it through already a cotton mesh cloth. It's smelling quite vinegary, boozy. This is now ready for our phase 2 of the vinegar production. So we will need some apple cider vinegar. This happens to be unfiltered and unpasteurized, so it contains all the good vinegar bacteria that will be needed to convert the alcohol into vinegar. Now we're going to add about 1 to 2 tablespoons of the vinegar into the jar and stir it vigorously, and then we'll leave it aside and see what happens in the next few days. This is a bit of an update to how the vinegar fermentation is going, and I wanted to show the jars in its various phases. So this is 1 week in, just allowing the apples peel and its natural yeast in there to just ferment. I haven't stirred it or anything, and I've made sure that the contents is submerged, so there's a jar sort of keeping it all in. Every now and then I just push it down, but I don't stir that, and I haven't really done anything. And as you can see, it took about 2 or 3 days before I saw some effervescence happening, and I'm just going to let that go. You can sort of, well, I can sort of smell that it's getting boozy. That's about 2 weeks in now, and that jar there, all the effervescence has definitely stopped, and I will be filtering this today and then inoculating it with the raw vinegar to get that going. Moving on to the third jar here, this was the one that I had mixed in the apple cider vinegar and the mother from a week ago, and as you can see, it's going quite well after 1 week, and it is looking very nice with the mother of how it's supposed to look, quite glossy there, and it's slowly thickening up, so that is exactly what you want. And also the contents of that is already tasting very much like a vinegar solution, so that is very, very good and ready to be used. Now over to the jar next to it, I had already started this about 2.5 months ago in an attempt to just see what we can do if we just use the natural bacteria that's in the air. But unfortunately it didn't create any sort of mother culture, and that ended up with a cam yeast growth. So it's just a very light, matte, sort of thin skin layer on top of that, and I'd say that's very much a failed attempt, and I can't really do much with that other than tip it out. It's kind of sad, but that's a 2.5 month experiment, and I don't think it'll get any better. And even pouring in some extra vinegar in there to get it going, I don't think it'll work. And so yeah, that's all the jars in its phases. So some people might be wondering how much faster the process can be if you have a mother of vinegar to kickstart your batch. So what I've done here, as you can see, is tipped out the contents into a new jar. It's unfortunately only holds 600 mils, so I didn't bother squeezing out every last drop of apple juice, or I should say apple cider. And I had taken out the mother out of the more mature jar, and also put in a tablespoon of vinegar. As you can see, that's the mother there at the bottom. Now you stirred the jar vigorously, and there you have it. Within 24 hours, a new mother had formed in the original jar, and also the new jar, within 24 hours, had a mother growth happening on top of the jar. So you can see it's quite a rapid process if you able to get yourself an original vinegar mother, and yeah, you can drop the whole process from 1 week to get some growth happening down to 24 hours given the right condition. So given this whole experiment, I would say it would take at least 3 to 4 weeks. With a healthy mother working away hard, you can get yourself vinegar and ready to be used. And it, like any wine, takes a bit more time to get it more stronger, both pH and acidity. I hope this gives you more of an insight into how vinegar process is created. And remember, if you like what you see, to hit the subscribe button and like, and also write any comments on how your vinegar production is going, as I'd like to hear your different style and techniques.